Topical Issues to discuss pay and related issues concerning Section 39 organisations.
Last October 2023, on actually Tuesday the 17th of October in the early hours to be specific, unions reached an agreement on pay parity for Section 39, Section 56 and Section 10 workers, workers that work in community services. And it was a long-running dispute in relation to the pay they were receiving and their counterparts were receiving who were directly employed by the state. And a proposal was agreed acknowledging that the workers in those sections deserve pay equality, and that was a very significant step for those organisations. A pathway was set out whereby an increase of 3% backdated to the 1st of April 2023 would be paid before the end of the year, an increase of 2% from the 1st of November and an increase of 3% from the 1st of March 2024. And that would come to a pay increase of 8% to those workers within 12 months. However, that pay agreement has not been honoured. First of all, the backdate of 3% backdated to April, I think only 80% of that agreement or that backdated pay has been paid to date. Now, I'm less concerned about that because that's backdated pay and it can be addressed. However, the increase due on the 1st of March wasn't paid on the 1st of March. And we've had a successor to Building Momentum agreed with public sector workers since that. And they have received a pay increase on the 1st of January, which means that the pay disparity between the Section 39, 10 and 56 organisations and their public sector counterparts has actually widened again. And this is causing huge concern within organisations, specifically organisations that are providing community services to disabled people. So we have a situation where, for example, in my locality, the Irish Wheelchair Association service in Cavan has actually had to reduce their service to an outreach service, something consistent with what they offered during COVID times. So what they are doing is that they are holding Zoom meetings, they are holding maybe a limited community contact day once every couple of weeks for service users. And they are doing home visits. Now, I have to say the staff in the service are excellent and they're doing absolutely everything they can to ensure that the service users get as much contact as possible. But it is not going to address the needs of those service users. They are absolutely so disappointed. The service had been reduced in recent years due to the lack of staff, but now it's actually gone to really zero in-service days. And they are not the only organisation faced with this. They may have come to that crunch point at this stage, and hopefully it can be addressed very quickly. They are engaging with the HSE, and we are hoping that there will be meetings to try and address the staffing issue. But there are other organisations in a very similar situation, so they may not just have got to that point yet, but they are very close to it. Now, the main reason for this, there may be a number of reasons, but the main reason is the pay disparity. Now, I know there is a recruitment crisis within the social and healthcare sector as it is, but if you're dealing with organisations who can pay €4 to €5 an hour at basic level more, say within the HSE or within Section 38 organisations, employees are going to go to those organisations. You cannot blame them. We have a cost of living crisis. They have high rents, high mortgages, so they are going to take that option. In the IWA in Cavan, they've said they have recruited and trained people to an exemplary standard over a period of 6 months, and then those people leave. They go to another organisation where they get a higher rate of pay. They actually said that the strike and the action coming up to the strike actually highlighted the pay disparity, and many workers who had been happy and were very happy in their work and wanted to stay there felt they had no option but to leave and go elsewhere in order to secure more pay because of the pressures that they have on the cost of living, rent and, as I said, mortgage payments. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Deputy Tully for raising this issue for discussion here in the House today. I know Deputy Tully has been an advocate for people with disabilities and for those working with them, and I do really appreciate that. Minister O'Gorman and Minister Rabbitte wanted me to take this opportunity to acknowledge the essential role that Section 39 community and voluntary organisations play. Staff there provide excellent health and social care services and supports to so many people right across the country. The Government recognises that the ability of organisations to recruit and retain staff is crucial. It's crucial to the delivery of quality services and to the overall sustainability of the sector. In recognition of the staffing challenges being experienced by providers, the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth, the Department of Health and relevant funding agencies proactively engaged with staff unions through a Workplace Relations Commission facilitated voluntary process. As you've said, Deputy, the agreement reached last October committed to a significant increase of investment in the sector. It amounts to a phased 8% increase in funding for pay for staff in Section 39, Section 56 and Section 10 voluntary organisations, and this significant increase was welcomed by everybody. The Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth provided an additional €14 million to meet the 2023 costs of this agreement, and this year providing a further €41 million to support Section 39 organisations in meeting the full year costs of the pay increase. The HSE has put in place the necessary arrangements to make this additional funding available and accessible to qualifying organisations. As a first step, interim funding was paid in late January and early February to all Section 39 organisations in receipt of annual funding above €250,000. All eligible 39 organisations, regardless of the level of funding, were subsequently issued a pre-populated template to facilitate claims for the full amount of funding due to their employees. Templates were issued to over 1,140 organisations to facilitate the uploading of relevant information through a dedicated portal. The administrative arrangements developed by the HSE are designed to make funding available as efficiently as possible to the employer organisations, while also providing for appropriate accountability for expenditure of public monies. Given a relatively slow initial response from employers, the HSE wrote to all Section 39 funded organisations requesting that they submit their claims and offering support to organisations that have queries in relation to the process. As of last Thursday, 18th of April, 363 organisations had submitted details and requests are being validated and processed as they come in. It is the objective of the HSE to make sure all due payments happen without delay so that employees of these organisations can access their entitlements as soon as possible. The HSE is working through eligibility issues as they arise and is dealing directly with the Section 39 organisations on a case-by-case basis. Staff employed in these organisations understandably want to see these increases reflected in their take-home pay. The important message for them is that the HSE is progressing the process with their employer and they're doing it as speedily as possible. It should also be noted that following agreement on the recent public sector pay deal, which I know, Deputy, you are particularly interested in, departments, agencies and unions will engage in further talks at the WRC next month. It is in the interests of staff that their employers take a direct and a proactive role in this round of further discussions. It remains a key objective of Government to ensure that appropriate funding is available to give stability to service providers for delivery of quality supports and to service people with disabilities, as well as to pay the workers.
Minister, for your reply. Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm delighted to hear that there will be further talks and further negotiations, because if this issue isn't dealt with, we're not going to see an end to this problem. There are, as I said, there are a shortage of workers within this sector, so they are obviously going to go to the agencies and the organisations that can pay them more, because they're doing exactly the same work but getting paid better in one organisation rather than the other. We've had several organisations like the IWA express concern directly after the unions accepted that deal to say, right, they welcomed it, they welcomed a pay increase for workers within their services, but they didn't feel it was actually going to address the pay disparity issue. Enable Ireland have expressed concern that they don't feel that the money is going to be sufficient to cover all the costs relating to the pay increases, such as PRSI and pension and so on. So they are ongoing issues that need to be addressed. Many of these organisations only get funding on a yearly basis, and they find it impossible to plan and ensure that they have sufficient funds going forward. But I think the bottom line is this the vital service that the Section 39 in particular are providing impacts on the most vulnerable in our society. So, for example, one service user in the IWA service in Cavan is a 25-year-old young girl called Caitlin, and she was born with Worser drought syndrome. She has epilepsy, she has cerebral palsy, so she cannot talk or she cannot walk, and hasn't been able to do so from birth. Now, she did attend school. She knows exactly everything that's going on, but she loved to go to her service. It was 3 days a week at the time. She was promised 26 hours a week. That never, ever came to fruition. She was attending 3 days a week for a number of hours. She was told then that that was going to be reduced to 3 days one week and 2 days the next. But then, next thing, due to the number of staff being off sick, she's actually got no hours. Zoom engagements are no good to her because she cannot talk. She appreciates the visits, but again, she's practically a prisoner in her own home because she cannot leave and go to her service that she enjoyed so much. Her mother is now practically a prisoner as well because she's her main carer. So she can't get out to do her little bits and pieces or whatever she needs to do because her daughter's at home and needs full-time care and assistance. So we are impacting directly on people and on their families. And this is a sector as well that didn't get the pandemic unemployment payment or the recognition payment either, and all the work that they did during COVID, and it was just totally unfair.
And I fully appreciate what you're saying in relation to recruitment and retention of staff. Staff in this area are absolutely vital because they provide the necessary resources and support that people like Caitlin and her family need. And that's why the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth is committed to sustainable service delivery for the benefit of those who rely on essential services and for the workers who are committed to providing that high level of service. The necessary additional funding has been provided, and the HSE is working to make this funding available as efficiently as possible to employer organisations, and progress has been made in this regard. Once individual organisations have submitted the necessary information to the HSE, it is then validated and then processed to facilitate release of the full amount of funding to that organisation. Dedicated supports, including external administrative resources and an online portal, are now in place to support organisations to submit the necessary information. The HSE is making payments now on a weekly basis, and the remaining employer organisations are encouraged to submit the required information to the HSE as soon as possible. This government has demonstrated its continuing commitment to people with disabilities with a record €2.9 billion provided in 2024. It includes significant additional funding to help increase service capacity and support providers to deliver more for people with disabilities right across the country. The Ministers acknowledge that there is more to do in this area, and following the conclusion of the new public sector pay deal, their officials will participate in further discussions with the WRC next month.